Well, it's been a pleasure to work together on the ESD and GCED Up Close study, which is a collaboration between NISSEM and CEPIN, and working with a team of researchers to put together the research for the UNESCO study. What do you want to say about the collaborative process, Aaron?
Yeah, no, I think that, as I mentioned to you, I think the first day that I don't think when we first spoke many months ago that we ever anticipated that we would be sitting in Ha Noi, kind of being the major input into like an incredible, major UNESCO international meeting, and that hundreds of people would be almost required to read the work that we had produced. So, it's taken a long time. There's certainly been a lot of ups and downs along the way. But in terms of the collaborative process, I think it's been a wonderful collaboration. Mm-hmm. Certainly, it's left a good taste, one that we might continue in certain ways, going forward.
Right. Well, I think the scope of the study is so large that I think either team on its own wouldn't have been able to do the same quality of work, and that each team brought different strengths in terms of and contributions, in terms of relationships with country experts, in terms of the ability to collect the different documents and verify them, and then working with the coding and the analysis, and then collaborating on the report writing. So it was really fruitful and great to have both teams of people to be able to contribute. So.
I would generally say that this is the first forum that I've been to, so my perspective is a little bit, biased in terms of having only been to this one. I think you've been to more, and you've been to several. Yeah. So, but my sense is that a lot of the people that attend this forum would tend to use a certain set of terminology and a certain kind of evidence. And I feel that one of the strengths of the report and the research is to actually provide maybe another way to communicate or discuss issues around global citizenship and ESD, both in terms of terminology, but also in terms of a body of evidence, which is quite new. So obviously there were people that were more supportive or more whatever, more critical, but at least in terms of changing the nature of the conversation, or at least providing a new channel for conversations to take place, I think it was very successful in that regard. At least that's one of my takeaways from this process.
And it was great to see the reception by the different country ministers and representatives, and to see that they felt, for example, in the second session, that the results meshed well with their understandings of what was happening in their country contexts, and where they could see, that helped them think about their education systems and where they might want to go next. And we heard that in the closing comments as well. So, I think sometimes we can get caught up in definitional matters or those sorts of things, but when such urgent issues as climate change and sustainability and global conflict and wanting to work towards more peaceful and sustainable societies, that we need to sometimes get past we don't want to be rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. We want to work together to get some lifeboats off in the water to have as much success as we can. So to work with different approaches and different terminologies, and in order to move forward our shared work.
Do you think this kind of study is going to spawn similar types of studies? Maybe not necessarily using the same document set, but other sets of documents. And would that be good?
Yeah, I would say yes, but. So my answer would be that to the extent that the global indicator for target 4.7 continues to be of the type that has currently been set forward, which essentially talks about the extent to which global citizenship and ESD are mainstreamed in policies and in curricula and in teacher education and in student assessment, then the kind of approach that the that we did in the study makes incredible sense. If for whatever reason they throw out the global indicator, which I understood now there is such a possibility, not immediately so, but potentially next year, then they would have to come up with a new one in which the kind of approach that we took here would have less validity. Certainly UNESCO would have a lot less interest in it. So that would be my thinking about it.
I think this study is exciting in that it's one of the first comparative studies of this scale that is not working with self-reported data, that has third parties doing analysis of curricular and policy materials and providing that, which complements then other work that has been based on self-reported materials from different country governments. So I think that is exciting to see, and see UNESCO moving in that direction, and hopefully we'll see more of that work regardless of the type of specificities of what is looked at, but to see more external studies working directly with data rather than with self-reported data only.
Right.
I mean, the other point that I would bring out, which is I think also just to reinforce something Marcia mentioned earlier, is that when we first carried out this analysis, I don't think we really knew exactly what would come out. It was not something. I mean, we had various kinds of hypotheses and some ideas, and we threw them around during the inception meeting, but I don't think we really knew what we would find. And so when we did get the initial analysis, I think that there was a sense. I wouldn't say relief, but the fact that the trends and many of the patterns made kind of sense. There was a certain face validity to the material that came out. So that was very reassuring. But the other thing that I found really extremely reassuring was what happened here at this meeting. So then when we actually encountered people from the countries that we had analyzed the materials, and they helped to validate the patterns that came out for the particular countries, and commented kind of on the context that why those things made sense to them. That was really a very important, it's kind of like a second confirmation or second validation, which I found really helpful.
That's perfect.
I was going to say I found it reassuring to see the variation across the countries, and that we didn't see one global trend, that was consistent across all the countries, that our education systems aren't homogenous, and I think that's reassuring. I was expecting to see which was the dominant trend overall, that more of a focus on the cognitive, and we know we need to get beyond that to be also addressing more explicitly the social, emotional, behavioral type dimensions, but that we didn't see that across the board in all countries, and so there was variation by cultural and country context. I think was a bit unexpected and reassuring for me.
And the final thing that I think I would say is that I don't think I've ever been to a meeting where the fruits of my labor, sometimes when we did the GEM report, it was the center of attention, but that was the launch of the report. But to come to an international meeting that you contribute an input, and that people are really asked to reflect on that input, it's a very satisfying and this kind of immediate feedback is often when you publish these things. You never really hear. You kind of send it out there into the digital world, and eventually get some feedback. But there's something immediate about hearing people comment about some of the material that emerged from the report and the studies. So that was very satisfying.